What is the difference between former Premier John Horgan and the current Premier in BC, Premier David Eby, the NDP in BC? What is the difference between the two premiers? Well, we're going to dive into that coming up next, so stay tuned as Bill 15 is quite a confrontational topic. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning into PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frayne. I'm the host. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between the former Premier of British Columbia, Honorable John Horgan. The late John Horgan was the Premier of the BC NDP since 2017 until he stepped down in 2022. And David Eby became the Premier of British Columbia and took over from that point on. But before I begin the show, I want to remind people that to stay up to date on all the current content. In order to do so, please subscribe, share, like the content. We hope you enjoy our shows that we're putting out there. They're for educational purposes, just to you let people know about lived experience stories. I mean, we have a lot of different guests that come on from time to time, members of parliament, members of the federal government, MPPs, MLAs in British Columbia, and all across the spectrum, people who talk about different transportation needs, like our previous guest we had on just recently, and more than happy to have Eric coming back on again in the near future. And he'll be talking more about transportation again. You know, it all interlines with lived experience stories. And I really hope you enjoy, the content and, of holding the politicians to account. It doesn't matter what politicians are in power. It's the legislation that gets implemented in. So that is the core of where things are at.
Yeah.
And how do we change things, right? And that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today. We're going to be talking about the confrontational Bill 15. There was Bill 14, 15. There was a Bill 7, but we're going to more focus on the 14.
Well, just before we get into the conversation, Brent, I'm glad that you let off the show with about our YouTube channel, because I was going to remind you about that, because we get a lot of feedback from people, like they're always saying, like, how can I help out the channel? What can I do to help out the channel? And we realize that not many people have a lot of money to help.
Yes.
But even just liking a video or sharing it out, leaving a comment, all of that really helps push the channel forward. So even if you can't contribute the $2 for a coffee, as we always say, just leaving a like or a comment or sharing out a video really helps a lot.
Oh, absolutely, Neil. Advertising the channel, if you're not able to financially support the channel, and we get it. Like, times are tough. And they're not going to get any better anytime soon, especially with the government not increasing PWD rates in BC, right? I mean, what could go wrong? 4 years, no increase to the support portion, and 2 years, no increase to the shelter portion, which was frozen for, 16 years. I talked about that, just a few podcasts ago. And I mentioned that in our rally in British Columbia at the BC Legislature, on the front lawns of the BC Legislature on May 29th. When you don't give an increase, you have to keep cutting back. And when you keep cutting back, where else do you keep cutting back, right?
Yeah.
And I think I echo a lot of that. those comments from the PWD across.
Everything else is increasing, but not
Yep.
except the rates.
Well, exactly, and and I echo that. And there's a lot of voices that are not being heard across our country, and I know that there's a lot of guests who would love to come on to our podcast. Maybe they feel, I don't know, maybe they do, or maybe they don't feel their voices are not being heard, or if they do want to come on, and like we're not judgmental. Like, I mean, if you want to come on and you don't want your face to be shown, you just want your voice.
We actually have a couple of maybe 2 or 3 guests that have never been on before that are wanting to come on and share their stories. So this is really exciting.
Oh, that's fabulous. I mean, and I really, it's awesome. And I really encourage, anyone to reach out to Neil, and, he'll get you scheduled in. He'll just to ask you a few questions about, what would you like to talk about on the show? What is like disability benefits, or like, how is it impacting your life? I mean, policy decisions, I mean, you name it. And we just narrow down to what caters to like the topics that you would love to talk about to us and our audience, and share your perspective of where do you see things at? I mean, do you see that the social safety net is, I mean, as we all know, it's not in place. It's deliberately broken. Yeah. And I wouldn't say it's just broken by accident. No, it's deliberately broken. And I think it was more mean-spirited legislation that was put in place major decades ago. I still shake my head on it, Neil, because my mom and I used to have a lot of discussions, and I think about her a lot because her birthday's coming up next month. It would have been her birthday, the anniversary of her passing. That's later next month. But I do think about a lot of scenarios that her and I talked about the Great Depression, the recession. She grew up during her mother did more than her, but she was just a little toddler. Like, she was just a little girl at the time. So she grew up during the Great Depression, and she lived through it. And so she helped me along the daily living of life going forward of when I was growing up, and not having certain things, were on the table, and what things that I wanted, and needs versus wants, she would tell me. And there was sacrifices. And when people see my posts, when I talk about sacrifices on social media, and I'm not kidding about that, right? You have to rationalize food. Like, you got to stretch things out. Well, and things aren't easy, right?
Well, even talking about needs versus wants, Brent, this actually dovetails pretty nicely into our topic today. Yeah. Because if you look at the thumbnail, if anybody looks at the thumbnail, it's spot the difference. Now, I don't know if they still run that game in the province newspaper or the Vancouver Sun on Saturdays or Sunday newspaper. You'd have there's 2 drawings, and it would be spot the difference, and it'd be like there'd be 2 drawings, and you'd have to spot the difference of like there's 6 differences in this photo between this drawing and this drawing, and you have to find the 6 differences or whatever, or 6 or 7 differences, and so there's that game, and there's also that song from Sesame Street, and again I'm gonna date myself, but it's like, one of these things is not like the other, one of these things is not the same, and both of these things, both of the song and the game of spot the difference, you can play that game with David Eby and John Horgan. Again, it's like needs versus wants, right? Where David Eby has really done a pretty severe power play, like a really big power grab, because for people that don't understand, I think if you're not in BC, especially, like maybe you're like, well, what's the big deal, and Brent? Well, I'll tell you what the big deal is. David Eby now has the power to circumvent the legislature, so that decisions don't have to be voted on in the legislature. They just have to go to the upper cabinet, and they'll just push stuff through based on the upper cabinet. and it's none of it's debated in the legislature. They'll just push stuff through. And
yeah, the members of the caucus, they would have no say so. They have no say so on what goes on. It's the cabinet, and so you got same members of the Legislative Assembly. You got 47 of them. Not all of them can actually agree. I mean, they could say, well, no, like we don't want that. Well, their voices are now being silenced.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's not even just the opposition is silenced, but their own party is silenced, because if you're not in the actual cabinet, you're SOL.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the BC Conservatives, I mean, they'd be silenced out. The BC Greens are silenced out.
Yeah.
Wow. And I think that part of the agreement that the Greens had was to work with the NDP about passing different bills, right? I mean, that was part of the agreement. I don't know how that's going to work too well, but power grab is not always the best solution. I would think listening to communities and people, that's what the House is about listening to what people want, right? I mean, they call it the People's House. That's the BC Legislature. But ramming through a bill where business leaders and across British Columbia, there was a lot of different stakeholders that were involved in these decisions makings, and I think that their jaws are probably dropping right now, probably saying, well, so we don't have a say-so?
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Everybody. So municipalities in every single city, community, town, I mean, around British Columbia, this bill will override any decision making that
they could veto any kind of city governance decision. Yeah.
If the city says, I don't want a skyscraper in my community, the government could go ahead and say, we're going to put a skyscraper there if you like it or you don't.
They're already starting to do that. The NDP are already starting to do that with their one size fits all housing idea, where they're just cramming in houses wherever. It's like, let's put a housing thing here, and they're not taking into account, like, is there enough parking space area? Is there enough amenities? Is there enough whatever for that area? They're just cramming stuff in, like, house, it's a house. Let's put a house there. And they're not taking into account, like, do we have enough infrastructure to support that new development that's going to go there, right?
Yeah, well, here's another good one. And here's Brent's going to pull a funny here, but okay, so if I grow a whole garden full of carrots, right? The caucus could say, yeah, that's a great idea. The cabinet says, nope, not going to happen. No, we need 5 fields of carrots, Brent, not just 1. 5 fields of carrots. The carrot trick.
Yeah, there you go.
I had to throw funny in there just because.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to make it humorous too at the same time, our podcast. So
we have Rob Shaw here. He's one of the legislative reporters, and he's on Check TV News. Mm-hmm. And he does a podcast called Political Capital, right? And both you and I watch it. We really like it a lot.
Oh, I love it.
And anyway, on his podcast and on an article that he wrote, he says, the BC NDP potentially could have themselves in a bit of a pickle here, because they keep saying they have no money, right? They keep repeating there's no money, but now they have all this power to do all this stuff, right? But where is the money going to come from to do all this stuff that they have all the power to do now, right?
That's a good question.
It's like, whoa.
Yeah. I talked to my neighbors about that quite a bit. I was talking to my corporate manager for where I live, and we were joking around just 3 days ago, and I said, well, the government has no money. She says, the government has no money. Well, then why are they in government if they have no money? Yeah. Brent, that makes no sense to me. I go, well, that's why they didn't raise our rates, because they said, economic downturn.
Yeah.
Okay, so when was the last time they raised your support portion? I go 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Okay, we were not in an economic downturn 4 years ago. We were basically in the midst of COVID, right? Okay, but the government had the funds right then. Just Brent, they had a major surplus of revenue. Okay, so
Yeah, they did.
why did they not use that money and raise your rates then and prepare for you can kind of forecast going forward that after COVID, there's going to be a downturn somehow, right? So what you do is you take care of your citizens, you boost up the revenue, so then they weather the storm. You don't wait till the storm comes and say, uh-oh, we got no money.
Well, the thing I don't understand though is like when John Horgan left, he left in at the end of 2022, and he left with it was an almost
$6 billion.
I think wasn't it 8 billion?
It was probably between 6 and 8 billion.
I think it was closer to $8 billion, Brent.
There probably, yeah.
Like an $8 billion surplus.
Yeah.
He left David Eby, and again, let's remember this is kind of at the tail end of the pandemic, right? Like we were coming out of the pandemic, so we had already kind of weathered the storm. So if things are going to be bad, they would have been bad early, or exactly. in early 2020, 2021, you could say, well, that's when the budgets could have taken a big hit. But the thing is we weathered that. We got through to the end of 2022, and what did John Horgan leave Eby with? An $8 billion surplus.
Mm-hmm.
And where did it go? It's just vanished like a pink unicorn. It's just poof, gone.
Right behind me, you got pink unicorn there. So you turn that pink unicorn, a positive into a negative. What can go wrong? Right? Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast today, everyone, you have to cut back. You got to sacrifice. I mean, how much more does society have to keep sacrificing? Meanwhile, you have the government saying, oh, well, we need to go and do studies of why people are homeless, why people are drug addicted on our streets. I mean, what is the underlying issue? There was a gentleman that was hired back in February of this year of 2025 to go and do a study of...
and he basically was hired for 3 months, and for 3 months he got $75,000. Not bad.
Yeah. It was a 6-month contract originally, to $150,000, right, just to tell people what they already know, and $25,000 of perks, just because, and that I could have led into a whole year. So that would have been $300,000. So plus the $50,000, because it's been $25,000 for 6 months. So that would have been $350,000, right? Wow. So after 3 months, he got turfed because the heat came on, saying people pushed back, saying no, they're not being responsible with the dollars. Mm-hmm. So what happens going forward? Now the government had hired a year ago. I just found on the news that they had hired a gentleman, a doctor, a year ago to do the same thing.
And they just kept that secret again? It's just a secretive thing?
I came across that apparently, it's going to cost about $250,000 per quarter. Quarter. So every 3 months, and there's going to be submissions, I guess, of his progress reports of what, he's an expert, so apparently he knows what he's doing.
Like, they already know what the issues are, though, right? I mean, people can get mad at me all they want about that I'm really critical on Eby and whatever, right? But the reason is, I mean, you have David Eby, and let's remember, Justin Trudeau. They were buddy, like chum pals, and they both decided that legalizing a hard drug possession, and the safe supply of fentanyl was a great idea. Mm-hmm. Like not only did they think it was a great idea, they doubled down on it. And now, and I mean, people, we have eyes, right? I have eyes, you have eyes, we have eyes and ears. like everybody can walk out on the streets and see the damage that it's causing, right? I mean, BC is becoming like the world leader in fentanyl crisis and fentanyl production.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm gonna pull up while you're talking to our audience. I'm gonna pull up that article that I just mentioned to you. But yeah, and I'm listening, Neil.
What about the doctor or?
Yeah.
Okay.
$50,000 if I can find it. If not, I can just give an overview, and then our next show, I will we'll talk more on that. But yeah, can't find it right this second. But definitely, it is a lot of money, and I mean, great. I mean, if the expertise doctor knows what to do on this, then more power to him, right? I think it's province-wide. It's not focused just on Vancouver. I don't pretend to know all the solutions on how to deal with the homeless issue.
I don't either, Brent. I don't think. Yeah.
I don't think anybody really knows the actual full solution, but the underlying issue is it stems to poverty. It really stems down to the core poverty of eliminating poverty is how to better people's lives. So you give them a foundation floor, and then they build from that point on. If you can't, and so with our social safety net rates across our beautiful country, I always say our beautiful country because it is very beautiful country. Economically, it's not, but our social safety net is completely just gone, right? It's fragmented with so many services that are there. You got your child tax credits, GST, EI, CPP, OAS, GIS, GSTs, you name it. I mean, well, there's CPP, but the government loves to claw that off people. So, I mean, but all these different services that are there, they could easily put it into one lump sum, and then look at your taxation levels throughout Canada, and who's on low, like ultra low income. There's no really much of the middle class anymore. I mean, it's starting to fade down, but. I mean,
we just talked about the government has no money. A simple solution for this, I mean, it's easy to say, for us, either middle income or less. But really, if they had another tax bracket to tax the most wealthy, like they have a tax bracket, I believe it's just what is it? The highest tax bracket is what? Not very much. And then it's like they don't really have a tax bracket for billionaires, but they really should, I'm talking billionaire with a B. They should have a tax bracket for billionaires, and they really don't. But if they added a tax bracket for billionaires, that would be a start, right? Add a few extra percentages for people for the companies that are billionaires, like for example, Canadian Superstore, or you have
here it is.
I don't know, like Tim Hortons and all of those big corporate brands.
Yeah.
Right.
I found it, Neil. I'm actually going to send it right to your messenger, and then see if you can pull that right up there. That's
the art of the. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
See if I can maybe play the audio into it. Actually, the article. I could probably do that too.
Sure.
I could share our audience.
We could do that.
Sure. I will actually do that right now, everyone. So stay tuned. A little bit of advertising here.
There are questions tonight about the contract awarded to a top BC advisor on severe mental illness. It's been 1 year since Dr. Daniel Vigo was appointed the province's chief scientific advisor for psychiatry, toxic drugs, and concurrent disorders. Richard Zussman has more on the 7-figure deal and where the government says that money is going.
We have Dr. Daniel Vigo,
the BC government's $1 million man.
I think one of the biggest problems when we see a contract like this is that we don't know what is actually being delivered to the province.
Last year, the province announced that it hired UBC professor Daniel Vigo to become Premier David Eby's chief scientific advisor for psychiatry, toxic drugs, and concurrent disorders. The contract shows Vigo's eligible to receive $250,000 each quarter he works, up to $1 million for the year. But the money can also be used for staff and to pay for expenses of doing the job. The province covers his current UBC salary while on secondment.
At the end of the day, it's $1 million that could have been spent on treatment. We don't need more consultants to tell us what we already know.
The province says the contract doesn't tell the full story. The $1 million plus expenses contract is for Vigo to build out his team and seek legal or expert consultations.
He has been seconded from UBC to work and provide advice to the government. So we effectively reimburse that salary to UBC. There is a contract on top of that that supports at least 4.5 FTEs or staff people who provide a range of skills and expertise.
So far, Vigo has provided the province significant advice, including a determination the Mental Health Act does not have to change to allow for involuntary care. Vigo also was alongside for announcements made to open involuntary care facilities in Surrey and Maple Ridge.
This is a fresh, innovative look using the professional experience that they have to help us identify the people who need help the most and to help us identify the solutions.
Last month, the government terminated the contract of Michael Bryant. He was set to be paid $150,000 to consult on delivering services on the downtown east side. The province ended up paying out about half.
This is just par for the course for the NDP in terms of hiring consultants, hiring people to come and help with the ideological problems that they have actually placed upon our province.
All right, Richard Zussman joins us now with more. Richard, as Eleanor Sturko alluded to there, this is not the only contract that Conservatives are concerned about.
Yeah, they've raised the concern about two other contracts, Sophie. One of them is around a review of Community Living BC. They have hired Tamar Consultancy to do the work reviewing the Community Living BC. The principal of that is Dr. Tim Stainton. He is, as the Conservatives describe, one of the architects that actually designed CLBC. Part of this as well is former NDP Minister Shane Simpson. He is approving of Stainton's hiring. He was the minister that formally looked over this department as well. The other contract the Conservatives are pointing at is another former NDP cabinet minister, George Heyman, has been hired to do a review for the government around current negotiations when it comes to public sector bargaining. It's important to remember that Heyman himself again has ties to the NDP and was also a former president of the BCGEU.
I'm sure we'll be hearing more about these contracts in the days to come. Richard, thank you.
Okay, now, Brent.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is it that the person that designed CLBC is now being hired to critique CLBC? Does that make sense? The person that designed CLBC, I mean, did everybody hear that? Yeah. The person that designed CLBC is now being hired to critique CLBC.
Wow.
That, I mean, does that not reek of something, Brent?
Well, yeah. As soon as I heard the story on that, I just shook my head in awe, going, "Wow, wow."
You know,
meanwhile, the government says they have no money.
Yeah, and
they've got no money.
And I mean, in the lead up to the last election, I mean, again, David Eby was like, he was boastful. He was boastful, saying, I can fix the downtown east side. I've got all the answers. He was literally on public record saying, I've got all the answers. I can do this. Mm-hmm. Right? He was very boastful. Mm-hmm. And now that he's got the keys to the car, he's like, well, I don't know. Let's hire a bunch of consultants. You know? Mm-hmm. It's like, either you know the answers or you don't. So you told everybody that you had the answers before the election, and then now you're like, well, I don't know, let's hire a bunch of consultants now. You know?
It's just money just getting thrown right everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's this money flowing everywhere on this and that. Meanwhile, the government says it can't raise rates.
Yeah.
mean, it was interesting, kind of reflecting back on our rally again back at the BC Legislature on May 29th. The minister who's in charge of MSDPR, the current minister, even said in the speech, like, the voices are not all being heard. They're not all being heard in the legislature. Why are our voices not being heard at the BC Legislature?
And she did say, I caught her saying, you said earlier, the People's House. She said,
yes.
She said, this is the People's House, so she said that in her speech, which I give her full marks on.
Yeah.
I know this was going to be a shorter podcast, Brent, so there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on before we leave. One of them is, let's see, I wanted to talk about, remember I was saying that we all have eyes and ears, we can see what's going on our streets.
Yeah.
You're in Victoria and you have something called Pandora now, which is kind of the epicenter, like a really bad epicenter of a lot of homelessness issues.
I call it Pandora's box.
Well, yeah, and I was just going to say that if people don't know, there's Pandora's box.
Yeah.
The Greek mythology of Pandora's box, right? Where you have, it's it was.
I don't feel safe going down there at nighttime. I won't go.
So this box is opened up, and the box holds these troubles and misfortune. That's what the Greek mythology is. There's this box that holds trouble and misfortune in it, and this person opens it up, and all this basically evil is unleashed. But the promise was that there was this hope in the box. There was, that's why it was open. There's the hope in the box, right? But the hope stays in the box. So the hope stays in the box, and everything else is unleashed. All the bad and misfortune is unleashed from the box. So here you have Pandora in Victoria that's living up to the name of trouble and misfortune and all this kind of bad stuff. Straight out of the pages of the Greek mythology, right?
Yeah, it's a shame why Pandora Street has got to the state that it is, because going back years ago, which is not that many years ago, it was apparently a very vibrant area before I moved here. And I saw pictures and videos of it, and it was greenery everywhere. There was no homeless people there. The sidewalks were clear. You could go to the Ministry of Social Development Poverty Reduction office is right there. And so you've got fences all around in front of the building. You've got individuals who are sleeping on the sidewalks, or they're passed out on the sidewalks. They're urinating on the sidewalks. And yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. I mean, I don't want to get graphic, but they were urinating on the sidewalk.
But it's true though, right?
It's true. I know nobody wants to hear that part, but it's terrible. And why do I know that is because there was one day I had to go to their office, and all I could smell is urine everywhere. They were doing their drugs paraphernalia, throwing garbage everywhere. I witnessed someone just tossing garbage. Mm-hmm. There's a grocery store. There's a grocery store that's close right by there. I cringe every time I want to go down to that grocery store. They have tight security inside the store now. They have arms where you just walk through and it opens up automatically. I've never in my life thought that there was going to be security guards in a grocery store. There's a McDonald's that's right beside there. Tight security around there too.
Well, that's just it, yeah. Brent, is that all of these things where the government's not buckling down and actually taking care of the problems. Mm-hmm. When you don't take care of the underlying issues of the crime and the drugs and the poverty, it gets passed along to you and me. Yep. Like the last show we did on the rat apocalypse. Yep. So we have this rat apocalypse now, and we have the homelessness issues, and all of this cost is being passed on to the strata residents that live in my building, and all like 20,000 other buildings across the province. So you have that being passed on to residents. You have that being passed on to store owners. You get that passed, like they have to beef up the security. They have to, or even you have shoppers that won't go downtown anymore because they're afraid to get mugged. Yeah. So they're not shopping downtown anymore. That's a cost too, or a cost loss too.
One of my neighbors said that he was downtown a couple of days ago, and he says, I can take care of myself. He says, okay, I'm a big boy. I said, yeah, I can tell looking at you. I'm scared. I'm scared about going downtown to shop. I had to go down and take care of a business transaction, and he runs his home, like a home business for himself. I had to go he says, to a bank, a financial institution. Mm-hmm. I was walking along, just minding my own business, and some guy came by and from a distance and threw a Slurpee. Well, actually it would have been from Circle K because 7-Eleven downtown is completely boarded up. It's shut down. Mm-hmm. And he came by and he threw a Slurpee and hit the guy on the shoulder. If he says, lucky I had moved. I just saw in the corner of my eye, something was coming and I moved, and he said, it hit me in the shoulder. If I hadn't moved, it would have hit me in the head. Yeah. And he says, I would have fallen to the ground. I turned around and the guy was just swearing and cursing away. He didn't even know what he was doing, what he was saying. Next thing out, the cops came by and got the individual. He says, and he'll be back out. He'll be back out and do it again later in the day, no problem. And he says, is that what we want in our society? He says, is to catch and release. We just, I want to see the federal government get tougher on these catch and release individual, like the problem. Like, look at the underlying issue. Toughen the regulations to the federal government. Look at the core problems of getting treatment, individualized treatment for the individuals, and get them the help that they need. Mm-hmm. I know that with I guess the doctor that's actually looking into all these things, maybe that's going to be part of the solution, but poverty is the other underlying issue, is raising the rates so that the people that are able to be taken care of, the individuals, the residents of British Columbia and across our country, citizens. I mean, we're residents, but we're also citizens of Canada. Mm-hmm. I mean, show us that we are citizens. Show us that respect and dignity that we all deserve to have. It is under the UN, just so everybody does understand that. It is under the UN CRPD, right? The Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And I'm not saying that every single citizen is diagnosed with a disability. There's about 27% of our population, and that number keeps growing as we get older or we get into a circumstance in our life and we develop more disabilities. Are we a burden on society? Well, right now, no, like we're not.
The government thinks so.
The government is keeping people in legislative poverty for no fault of the individual. It's a system that's been designed. Even the minister admits in her speech at the BC Legislature, these are mean-spirited. It's mean-spirited legislation. Well, if it's mean-spirited, then change the legislation, right? Yeah. And whoever's telling you not to do it, tell them to come on to my show. Come on to the show and tell the public why you don't want to change the legislation, right? If there's only certain voices in the House that only want to see it happen, to have it changed, why not have a whole chorus? How about we all look at solutions of how to eliminate poverty? Why not get our rates up to a standard living income, and that people can better their lives in so many ways? They can get out of precarious housing. They can buy healthy food. They can take care by clothing. I mean, you name it. There's so many things that people can do to better their lives. They can put back into the community rather than giving the majority of their income to corporate landlords who are not paying. A lot of them are not paying their taxes in Canada.
Well, you know what I wanted to do, Brent? I wanted to take the last 10 minutes and really focus in on the difference between David Eby and John Horgan. Sure. You know, this is going to sound kind of surface level, but I don't really care. I mean, I would say we all know that John Horgan was a church-going man. He had, he was a man of morals, right? And you found out because you were very close with John. you had a friendship with him, like a close friendship with him, and you found out directly from him that he was basically the only guy at the table, at the cabinet table, the inner cabinet table, that wanted to raise the rates within the NDP, the BC NDP party. He was the only one saying, I want to raise the rates. Everybody else is like, no, John, let's not do that, right? So here again, we have a man of morals. John Horgan was a man of morals, high moral standards, live the Christian life, and so right off the bat, that's a stark difference, right? Where, like you could tell the way John carried himself. Like you didn't even have to ask, like, is it you just knew that, like, he was a guy that was driven by, like, I want to do what's best for the province. Like, not for me. Like, he wasn't like, I'm going to do what's best for me selfishly. I want to do what's best for the province all the time. And here you have David Eby, that's like, what was the first thing he did when he got the 1 seat majority? He handed everybody like a shitload of money. It's like, I'm going to bribe you. I'm going to bribe you with a shitload of money and just invent jobs.
$60,000 for every 47 MLAs, everyone.
And he just invented roles and jobs for people so that he could give them money, and just so he could protect his own butt, right?
Yeah. Then he says he's broke. I'm glad
right there, right, and so one of the things I wanted to finish up on, there was an MLA, a BC NDP MLA, George, what's the last name? George
Anderson.
George Anderson. He did an amazing kind of poem, or like it was kind of a rap poem. Mm-hmm. He stood up in the legislature, and it was quite humorous. And it really kind of shed a light on, like, we always talk about party whips and how every party has, like, you have to vote a certain way, and mm-hmm. and you really get to know, like, the politics within the party, like that they're really like, you have to vote this way, like they have all this power in the legislature. Yeah, anyway,
if you go this way, you don't get your carrots.
Yeah, his little speech that he gave, or his little poem rap, talks exactly about that. And the speaker of the legislature basically told him to shut up, stop talking, turn off your mic. But let's play that, Brent, because it really is enlightening. Yeah. As to kind of the power dynamics that are going on in the legislature right now.
Okay, here we go, everyone. Here we go. Hang on here. And okay, here we are.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 'Twas the last day of session, and all through the House, not an MLA was stirring, not even a mouse. The galleries waited, the cameras were live, and as we wrapped up this Parliament's first legislative dive, the Speaker sat ready, his patience worn thin, still haunted by statements that were over 2 minutes in. Emini contra descende, the clerks occasionally cried out with flair, except that one time when the opposition whip almost missed a vote while he was out grabbing a sandwich, or maybe a float. Von Palmer took notes with his usual grin, while Keith Baldry prepared for the 6 o'clock spin. Debates turned to outhouses, and yes, in the heat, the leader of the opposition asked, "Over 30 degrees, Minister, would you take that seat?" The government House leader read with an auctioneer's pace. Not even Hazard could keep up the race. The Greens had 2 voices, each sharp and precise. They voted with conscience and offered advice. The Greens may not be many, but they sure made it count, and their speech-to-seat ratio, a stunning amount. In committee, the deputy chair ruled with such grace, no muffins, no gum, no food of any trace. The BC Conservatives thundered with outrage and flair, but lost 3 to independent seats over there. They raged about taxes and played the bagpipes in here. yet the BC Conservatives can't bring themselves to say Trump's not welcome here. Throughout the days, one thing held tight. No context BC almost everything in sight. From mutters, side comments to wardrobe displays.
Mike, member, you have crossed the line. No. Just withdraw those remarks.
I do. Halfway through session, the speaker stood up. Someone's taking Macy. She's been
Member, just turn the mic off for me, please. Thank you. Member for Victoria Swanley.
I don't know if people caught that, but right at the end there,
Yeah.
he basically thrown the speaker under the bus.
Yeah, he did. I caught that.
Yeah,
too.
and you know, and he also did a veiled comment about the whip, the party whip. There's a lot of kind of veiled but not so veiled dart, basically within his own party. So
I kind of wonder sometimes is a lot of the members of Legislative Assembly, I'm sure there's probably a lot of them that want to speak up and actually say how they feel, but you know, unfortunately,
and that was an excellent job of speaking up and doing it in a. I thought it was a very respectful way, even though the speaker told him to basically shut up, turn off your mic. He was still doing it in a very respectful way, in a funny way, but a biting way, like a veiled biting way.
Yeah, he just didn't want to be silenced, right?
Yeah.
He just kind of throw it out as a riddle. And I mean, I thought it was actually quite well done myself personally.
Yeah.
And I'm not a member of any particular party, nonpartisan. But I mean, I think that he kind of mashed it together perfectly. So that it made everybody feel welcome, so that their voices actually were being heard. He didn't exclude anybody out of it, and then being told that you need to turn off your mic, member. Like, I mean, maybe he kind of touched a few nerves here and there.
Yeah, the speaker didn't like it because he basically. That was like 24 hours after the speaker had just voted to pass the Bill 15, right?
Right.
So the speaker's nerves were already kind of frayed. It's like, don't poke fun at me. Like you keep
don't poke the bear.
Don't poke the bear. Like turn off your mic, right? But anyway, I just thought that was really fascinating because it was an inside look at the kind of the inner mechanisms or machinery of the things that go on with regard to like the party whip and how people have to vote and uphold the legislature in maybe not so honorable ways sometimes. Yeah,
there is a little clip before we end today's show. It's kind of a mashup of under no context.
I saw that one too. That was great.
I'd love to actually play that for everybody, just for the spring session, kind of how it went down, and I hope you enjoy it. And then I'll be back right after after I play it here.
Okay.
A comedy hour here at the web.
Okay, so here we go, everyone.
Member, for God's sake.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, hang on. There we go.
Member, for God's sake.
Ready to go?
Today's ritual bloodletting.
I doubt the minister has ever used the porta potty in -30.
I don't really want to be on no context.
I have, and it's not a pleasant experience.
A comedy hour here at the legislature.
Or was that Taylor Swift over there?
I looked up Google reviews.
Google and Apple are listening to everything we're saying. Put that under there. No electronic devices.
I really lost my spot. I can't read my own writing. Riveting information here.
Sorry. This is going to be a long afternoon. Didn't work.
I'll shake it off.
Don't try to be so cute, member.
Giant heart blast.
We've got Madam Speaker starting in my office today, a kitten that my office adopted.
There should be no food in the chamber.
Cheesecake.
We want food.
Creme brulee.
Democracy sausages.
Ice cream.
The first farm called and the baby.
Farm got up and said I was acting like a big baby.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have many friends, which is why.
Our official parliamentary cat, the Macy Hamster, has been catnapped.
And are you guys listening?
The cat has gone missing.
And are you apologizing?
We have an official buckle blower.
Gary, we all love you.
You owe me $5.
Legalize human composting as an option for disposition of human remains.
No, you know.
I don't listen to people who steal cats.
I want to raise a motion to allow energy drinks in the cups.
People that are out looking for agates on the beach.
Gaslighting is not parliamentary language.
$6 billion worth of unicorn farts.
Let me know when you're finished.
Elbows up. There's a ninny in the White House. And I say that recognizing that my default elbow setting is already pretty high.
Yeah. So that was quite quite a neat mashup of some of the funny moments watching that, and I'd watch the Legislature channel all the time. And I'm kind of a geek that way when it comes to, it's kind of like Rob Shaw when he puts his political capital on. We watch that all the time. I find it very interesting because I like to hear what's going on and how policies and legislation affects British Columbia's and decision making, how it's a ripple effect across our beautiful country. And hearing just funny moments how they mashed all that up, and I remember some of those episodes actually that were announced. The one member said, "Oh, it's going to be a long day."
And just for people that don't know, there's this Twitter page called No Context that did this mashup, and that posts kind of weird things from the legislature that basically have no context. Just somebody says something off the cuff, and it's just with no surrounding context, and it's just like, bang, it's up there.
Yeah, and it was just how the camera had reflected on the one minister and it said, "Oh, stop being cute," and it was reflected like it was like a reflection of like almost like farts or something on Mike Farmer's face. It was just like, oh yeah, it was just blossoming, and so no context. Whoever's behind it, I mean, well done on that. Like, I must give you credit on that. It was like it's so clever. It's neat. Again, I talk about this a lot, about poverty. Poverty doesn't need to exist in Canada. I'm going to be doing another session coming up soon regarding poverty, policy decisions on how it affects people's lives. If you would love to come on to the show and talk with me regarding that, I have upcoming guests that we're going to be kind of diving into some of these topics, but if you would love to be a guest and come on and talk to me about how legislative poverty affects your life, and how do you want to see members of our legislative assembly, whatever province you're in, your MPP, I believe that's only in Ontario have MPPs, or our members of Parliament, MP. Write your MPs.
Talking about MPs, Brent.
Yes.
Guess who's coming up on Monday?
Exactly. That was kind of our right into that. Oh, yes. Our next guest. Yes.
Coming up on Monday is?
I'm looking forward to. And our next guest coming up on Monday is, drumroll, former MP for Kitchener, Ontario. I'll give you a hint. Kitchener, Ontario. Mike Morris.
Mike Morris, yes.
And from Kitchener, Ontario. He was the Green Party member. I don't know what's going to be happening with Mike going forward. Mike will talk more about
that. Well, this is why we wanted to have him on. I mean, again, longtime followers of this podcast will know. I think this will be the 10th time that he's been on.
Yes.
I mean, if you go all the way back to the Twitter Spaces that used to run.
Yeah.
He's literally been on the show like 10 times. So I think this
That's
will
fantastic.
be the 10th time I think that we've had him on. So he's kind of in Cheryl Hardcastle territory as being like a really big supporter of what we do here. And it's great.
He's been a longtime champion. Echoes our voices back in the House of Commons when he was in, and I must give him so much credit for. He's so passionate on putting an end. And well, I mean, he wanted to put an end to legislative poverty. He wanted to shine a light on all the inequalities. He told the federal government how to work with the Canada Disability Benefit. He had put measures in place through committee stage of the recommendations, and the members of the committee accepted his recommendations. And a slap in the face, a gut punch to all PWD across Canada, how the committee, the policymakers, how they could turn one positive thing and the measures that Mike had put through. And I'm still appalled at the people who decided to go against the measures that were put in place that you agreed with, Mike. You agreed with Mike.
Yeah.
The policymakers. I mean, shame. Like you agreed with Mike and all testimonial statements from doctors, nurses, practitioners, advocacy organizations. There was so many inputs into lived experience stories. And
the whole thing was almost like a just kidding.
Yeah,
just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it wasted everybody's time and energy and emotional impacts it put on people's lives. And you turn one thing where it was supposed to be that CDB. We'll give it about a few more minutes on the podcast, everyone. But I just want to dive into this part here because it was just picking away at me. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was thinking about this, and I thought, I'm going to talk on the podcast today, closer to the end.
Okay.
But that CDB was supposed to be modeled after the GIS, the Guaranteed Income Supplement for seniors. It was supposed to be historic. It was supposed to lift people out of legislative poverty. Over 1.5 million people with disabilities. As we age, that number grows higher. Did you know that it's around 1.7 million now? Yeah, it's around 1.7 million. And that number keeps clocking higher and higher. The Stats Canada, don't go with what Stats Canada said, no, because they'll go with old stats information. Lived experience. I mean, people know what they go through in life. I mean, awkward decisions, precarious housing. And this CDB was supposed to lift people out of legislative poverty up to a standard level. Now, if we could, as society, could give CERB back in 2020, remember everybody thought CERB, this is the best thing. This is get it out the door. Some of the media were asking the former prime minister, well, I mean, is there no safety checks here? I mean, who's going to get it? Who's not? I mean, people were suffering now. Yeah. We'll figure it out later. Let's just get the money pumped out. They got that money out in within a week, week and a half. I mean, people were getting this money. People with PWD status, either federal CPPD, you're on federal level, or provincial or territorial level. If you had the DTC, you would get the $600 one-time payment. But the prime minister at the time said, Justin Trudeau, he had said, nobody's going to be left behind, right? Nothing without us, without us, or whatever that is,
Nothing about us without us.
Yeah, it was all like bubble gum talk, It was just like, and I looked at it, I thought, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I remember that announcement.
I was too. I wanted the CDB to be a good thing. I wanted it so bad to be a good thing, but I wasn't sure. Sure.
And I remember those announcements every morning. I'd turn on the news. There were breaking news. You're waiting at the cottage. Yeah, at the cottage, and Justin Trudeau came out. All the media is there, and you see all the paperwork. There was one day, Neil and our audience, if everyone remembers that, there was paperwork sitting on that stand there, and I guess the wind came along and it started blowing it all over the place. Yeah, and I thought, oh man, and you could hear the media just scrambling around. Oh, I got it. They're trying to get that paperwork, all his briefing notes, right? So, and Justin Trudeau came out every day. There was a new announcement. Well, we're going to help out certain sectors of the population. Seniors, I heard seniors. I thought, okay, PWD are going to be coming up next. Yep, we were at the end. They called it the most vulnerable of our population.
Yeah.
And then they finally said the Canada Disability Benefit in reference of the Canada Disability Benefit. I mean, Carla Qualtrough was the minister that was in charge of the federal benefit at first, and then it went to Kamala. How do you pronounce her name?
Kamel Kara.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was then passed over. Now, was Carla Qualtrough doing such a great job? She wanted to make the CDB.
That's exactly right, Brent. I mean, yeah. I've said this before. I know that Carla Qualtrough was getting a lot of attacks.
Yeah, she was very passionate.
But honestly, like, she was really trying to do her job, and you know for a fact that Justin Trudeau and company was saying, wait a minute, Carla, slow your roll. You're doing too good of a job here. Slow your roll. Mm-hmm. We can't have you doing a good job. So she was deliberately nerfed. And you could tell the narrative coming out of her mouth changed. Like,
yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah. And then the change of it slowly started transitioning over to 1.5 million, and it went to hundreds of thousands, and it went down to tens of thousands. And that's why I had originally, I looked at that and I thought, I need to make a space for people to come to and talk about how is this going to impact people's lives, right? And so I looked at that scenario, and that's why I came up with with the group and how this show developed, because I wanted people to come on and talk about lived experience stories. How it is, like, it was either like some kind of flat amount of the versus like Canada Disability Benefit, or a guaranteed livable basic income, or a basic income, something that was going to be a flat amount. So I figured, well, the Canada Disability Benefit, great. I was cautiously optimistic at the time. And as we just mentioned, as things developed, we know where it is now. I mean, historically, it was supposed to help everybody to lift them out of poverty. Now it's up to $200 based on household income. Mm-hmm. And it's also, there's so many barriers in place. You've got to jump through all these hoops to apply for it. I mean,
so there goes the GIS model out the window.
Yeah. And the CRA already has everybody's information. They know who gets what. They know who's on benefits across our country, or territorial benefits. They know. They've got all the stats. I've talked to CRA. They already know who gets what. Mm-hmm. So federal government, I talked to the CRA. They know. So tell me, why can't you just give it to the people on provincial and territorial benefits automatically? They're disabled provincially, and they're residents of each province. They're citizens of Canada. Let's take care of it. Let's get rid of all this red tape.
You know what they're trying to do? You know what they're trying to do, Brent? They're trying to slow the roll.
Yeah.
They're trying to slow the roll.
We
can't actually do our job.
They want to make more committees, and then have other members of that committee to study how they screwed up, and they want to make more pink unicorns. Yeah. But honestly, though, I mean, CRA does have all the information. They know who gets what. Doctors are just beyond pissed off. Like, they're wasting their time. We have a doctor shortage in Canada. We have people don't even have doctors to fill it out.
It's because all the doctors and nurses were fired when they didn't take the jab.
That's right.
And now BC is sitting there like, whoops. Maybe we shouldn't have fired all our doctors and nurses for not taking the COVID shot.
Yeah, or the doctors had retired too.
Or that too.
Yeah, people were already disabled. They're disabled. They're disabled Canadians, citizens. I mean, just automatically give them that revenue that was promised back in the original state of the CDB, and retroactive back to the date that you announced it too. Ooh, boy, that'd be a hot topic. Let me know, everybody, in the comments. What do you think about that? Retroacting back.
I like that idea.
I love that idea too.
Because that would mean I would get 12 years of my CPP back, of Claude back, survivor's pension.
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So again, everyone, reach out to Neil if you want to come on to the show. We have lots of spots open. Just a little bit of a media.
Well, they're filling up now, but yeah, we still have spots open. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a programming note. Later in the summer, I haven't really determined exactly when, but there's going to be a short little break in between our shows later in the summer. Neil is going to have some time with his family. I'm going to have some time away, but I'll be making an announcement in the. I'm not going to use government lingo in the coming weeks because that could mean a long time, but I'll be making that announcement shortly later this month. It won't be for too long, just to take a little bit of just enjoying some of the scenery around my community and surrounding areas. There won't be any travel segments this summer. No major travel segments for us. No train trips right now. But have to work on that.
You can do walking trips.
Exactly, and I'll be doing some coffee time with Brent. And I'll be doing some breaking with Brent, and a little bit of travel, but like a little bit of travel segments, but locally. It could be within here and Metro Vancouver, but like locally, it won't be too far.
Maybe Newton.
Maybe Newton. Yeah, Newton. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, Newton Putin.
Newton Putin.
I gotta keep that word Putin out of it. Yeah, but yeah, Newton. Yeah.
We just got a strike now, Brad. Thanks.
Yeah, strike. Hey, it's like hey. Yeah. I've always said that since I was a kid, that Newton Putin. So that was no context PWD on that one.
Yeah.
But that's just a programming note. So don't be shocked if Val said, "Oh, you don't see any shows for a little period in the summer." But you will see Breaking with Brent. You will see Coffee Time.
Well, people can rewatch our stuff too. Exactly. Talking about the old, just before we go, you were talking about the old Twitter Spaces. Mm-hmm. Just for people that don't know, there are the old Twitter Spaces that are up on the YouTube channel. Like I've kept them for historical purposes. So the only one that's not there, ironically, the only one that's not there is the very first episode. The very first episode that had Cheryl Hardcastle. You had the very first episode with Cheryl Hardcastle. It's not there because it either wasn't recorded or the recording wasn't kept. I forget which one it was.
I think it was the recording wasn't kept. The audio quality was complete garbage. And that's why the main reason why, just so everybody kind of following along here, the main reason why we moved it from there over to where it is now is because the audio and the video quality. I mean, there was no video quality there because there was no video.
Yeah.
But the audio quality is superb the way it is.
Because you jumped on early on the Twitter Spaces, right? And then in the early days of Twitter Spaces, it was like every third or fourth word, it was like Yeah. And it was just audio, but even the audio, it was just jumpy and all get out. Yeah.
Especially if the broadcasting, the signal, the network wasn't strong enough either, it would actually cut it out also, which didn't help. So, and that's why like some people have asked me, well, why don't you look at Rogers or TELUS? They have a program that's really good for people with disabilities or people on seniors benefits.
Tell us for good. It's called Tell us for good.
Tell us for good. And I've looked at that. But here's the problem on that is that if you reduce down to a lower bandwidth, it'll start cutting out pixelization and the audio.
And then the podcast goes bye-bye.
Yeah. And so
we'd be sitting here like photographs.
Yeah. And it would just be the in my area the signal strength is already, it's not bad. It's pretty good for what I have. And I have internet 250 speed where I am right now, and TELUS for good goes up to 150 speed. And so the maximum I will get a little bit of you're on time, a little bit of a buffer, not much right now at 250. Imagine going down to 150. Yeah. The lowest, I think, is 70, 25, or I think it goes up to 50, 75, and 150. Yeah. I even got advice from Talis saying, you just keep it the way it is for now. Like what works good for you. That was their recommendation too. I have to wheel and deal with them and see where I can get the rate down to a comfortable level. Because again, cost of living going up, the rates haven't been increased in 4 years for support, shelter, no increase in 2 years, rent increases, cost of living. So I need to keep my cost down. At the same time, save up money so that I can now go and visit you guys out in Ontario.
Let's make a deal, Brent.
Ontario, Canada.
Pick your curtain. Will you want curtain number 1, curtain number 2, or curtain number 3?
Yeah. And one of my exactly. One of my journeys, also like the travel segment, is I'm going to explore the Maritimes. That will be in the future.
That would be cool.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. That is on my bucket list.
I want to do that too, actually, if I could.
Yeah. I know that there is somebody that wants to come along with us on our journey, and that person talks about. I'll give you a hint. Kind of like the CDB, but a different version.
I know.
I'm not going to say the name, but that would be something. That would be something.
That would be something.
Yeah. And if there was a way of us taking you along, Neil,
I would love it. That
would be great.
We have to think about that one. We have to brainstorm that one, because I would honestly love it, actually.
Yeah, and I actually talked to Via Rail, and they said they can accommodate you too. Like there's ways they work with that, because like I've seen people on there before that, and one good thing too is they customize meals too. So on dietary needs, they really strongly cater to people's dietary needs and their accessibility needs too. So I must give credit to Via Rail. Amtrak does the same thing, but I give credit to Via Rail on that. More power to them. So that's something that's on our bucket list. Something that I'm going to be working toward. No time frame, but it's definitely something that we want to do. There's so many different things, but it's just a matter of sequence, of order of priority. So that's kind of all the excitement to look forward to. And like I say, stay tuned for our next guest coming up on Monday. Mike, former MP Mike Morris from Kitchener, Ontario. Definitely. I'm looking forward to speaking with Mike and other guests that are going to be coming up on our calendar. If you want to be part of our calendar in the early part of the summer, reach out to us. And if the summer doesn't work for you, we can schedule you in starting even in September, later end of August.
Yeah, well, right now we have
giving a little hint of when I'm going to be away, right?
Yeah, right. So maybe early July is kind of out of the question, but later in July and August maybe.
Yeah. So again, I go a little bit here and there, but definitely reach out and we can negotiate, and then you'll find out once you reach out to Neil and he says, "Oh, Brent's not available, or we're not available. The show's not available." Then, and we will let you know when we can get you fit in on the schedule, and we can negotiate, right? And Neil will keep me posted on that too. So definitely stay tuned for any of our exciting events that we do. Coffee Time, Breaking with Brent, Brent's local travel segment locally within BC.
I keep refreshing stuff on the channel too. Like I'm always continually updating links and just refreshing the content and making sure it's more searchable. I constantly do that. I'm going through it again, making sure all the links are proper, all the content is proper. I'm doing a whole other refresh again of the channel, so maybe people will notice. Hopefully they notice. But I always work hard to keep everything up to date and just make it easy to find everything. I keep shuffling things around and making things look pretty if I can. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of like housekeeping.
Housekeeping, yeah. Housekeeping on the channel, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it really helps our channel for you to like the content and share and subscribe. If you are fortunate enough that financially that you love our content and you are able to, buy us a copy. Click the like button there and you'll see the dollar symbol. There's so many options of different.
Yeah, like
levels.
during now that it's a live stream, like during the live stream, you can see it in the chat. There's a dollar bill in the chat, so you can click the dollar bill in the chat right now. After this turns into just a normal video, it takes about 24 hours again, and then it wakes up as a normal video, and then it will have the dollar bill again at the bottom of the video there. You'll see it, or in the corner. I think it's on the left. Is that left or right hand corner in the description of the video? You'll see the dollar bill again.
Yeah, and let our listeners and our viewers know, so what happens when people click that dollar bill, Neil? What happens?
Well, what happens is if you're on an Android phone, because of course. When you have a phone, one of the first things you do, if you're on Android especially, it's all tied to Google and YouTube. So one of the first things they ask you if you want to is to put in your credit card for purchases and things, like for the App Store and things like that. So if you do press the dollar bill, then it's tied to your Google Pay automatically on your phone.
Your wallet.
So I don't see it. We don't see any of your financial information. Only Google sees that. So it's directly tied to the Google account on your phone. So if you have an account set up on your phone, or if you have Apple iPay, if you're on an Apple phone, it's the same thing. You have Apple iPay set up on your phone. You click the dollar bill. Same thing. It will go directly to your Apple iPay if that's set up on your iPhone.
Yeah, on whichever payment card that you have.
Yeah, whichever payment is already set up on your phone.
I'm sure you can set up as a debit Visa also. Like they have debit Visa, debit MasterCard if you don't have a credit card. Because I have it set up on mine where I have like a debit Visa, and I have it set where it'll actually debit my whatever card that I choose. So if I go to a store and when there's funds in there, and then you basically just select the account that you want, and I'm going to choose this one. There are certain cards, unfortunately, that certain banks they won't recognize on Apple Pay, and then there's Google Wallet. Most of them will accept it. There are ones that are just kind of temperamental. They just don't for some reason. I don't know why, but I find that the majority of charter banks and credit unions for sure they will, because that's what I have set up as a credit union on it. So
that's the thing I like about how YouTube does it. Actually, is that it's not some fly-by-night. It's not some fly-by-night website that we're saying put in your credit details here. You're dealing directly with YouTube. Yeah. It's directly tied to your own smartphone account. So if you trust your own smartphone account, you should trust the payment
secure
method on the YouTube because it's secure. Yeah,
it's very, very secure.
No funny business. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Stay tuned to our next show with Mike Morris, former MP for Kitchener, Ontario, for the BC Green Party. I mean, not BC. Sorry, federal. Because I'm in BC.
Brain fart.
I knew I was going to say that. But for Ontario.
We wish he was the BC Green. Actually, that would give. That would give David Eby one less majority. Right? He would be. He wouldn't have a majority anymore. He'd have one less seat. So we want Mike Morris to come over here.
Too much. We love you, Mike. We want you in BC. I think in BC because we're in BC and brain fart. But I'm looking forward to Mike having you on, and listeners, our viewers, definitely stay tuned because Mike's gonna be on here on Monday. stay tuned. Have a great weekend, everyone. And we're going to have a heat wave coming this weekend. So it's going to get thirsty
really
warm
hot.
here. Ooh.
I'm going to sing out. One of
All
these
right.
things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. Right? David E.B. versus John Horgan.
Horgan.
Okay. Bye,
David
everyone.
E.B. John Horgan. Have a great day, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye.